ఉషోదయం ఛానల్కు స్వాగతం.
Ramayanam Part 4. Now that Rama was married, King Dashratha, who was growing old, thought constantly about the future. He felt that it was time for Rama to ascend the throne of Ayodhya and rule the prosperous kingdom of his forefathers. Rama was accomplished in all the arts of kingship. He was a skilled and courageous warrior. He was loved by his family and his people. There was no reason to delay his coronation. Dashratha called together his entire court, his ministers and advisers, and his generals, and as well as kings from neighborhood lands. In his packed court he announced in a voice that was as deep as thunder, "The time has come for me to retire. I have served my people well. I have ruled this earth wisely. My kingdom is prosperous and at peace. I have no enemies, and my sons have grown into fine young men. Tomorrow, under the auspicious constellation of Pushya, I shall crown Rama, my beloved eldest son, king of Kosala, ruler of Ayodhya. May you serve him with the same love and loyalty that you have served me." The kings and ministers and generals gathered. There broke into applause. "Rama! Rama! Hail King Rama! Hail King Dashratha! Victory to Rama!" they shouted. The king returned to his private chambers, and all over Ayodhya the people began to prepare for Rama's coronation. The priests set about collecting all the materials they would need for the ceremony: sandalwood, and ghee, and flowers, and the water that had been blessed. Men and women washed their homes and sprinkled the streets with perfumed water to keep the dust down. Merchants spread out their best wares. Young men climbed to the tops of the buildings and hung them with banners. Young women pulled out their finest clothes and jewels. Actors and dancers tried out new performances. Musicians tuned their instruments, and even children did their bit of stringing garlands of multicolored flowers. In the palace, too, servants ran around getting things ready for the big day. Clothes were perfumed with fragrant oils and scents. Pillars were wrapped in flowers. Oil lamps were lit in the windows, and all the corners of all the rooms. Couches were covered in shimmering silks and shining satins, and sumptuous food and drink were laid out on banquet tables, in dishes of gold and glasses of silver. There was song and laughter everywhere. Not a single pair of hands was idle. As the servants laughed and talked, word spread about Rama's coronation into the inner apartments. Mandara, who was the queen Kaikeyi's maid, watched the preparations with a heavy heart. Mandara was a hunchback, and she came with the queen to Ayodhya when she got married. She was fiercely loyal to her mistress as she was to Bharata, Kaikeyi's son. Finally she could bear it no longer, and waddled over to where Kaikeyi was dressed for the evening celebrations. "Are you happy at this news? Look at you. You are a fool. What are you what are you doing? Laughing and smiling and getting dressed in all your finery, as if it was your son who was being crowned king tomorrow?" She snarled. "Oh, Mantara, are you one of your moods?" "Of course I am. Celebrating. Rama is my son too. He loves me as much as he does his own mother. I'm so happy for him. Aren't you?" Kaikeyi smiled as she reached out her hand to the old hunchback. "Kaikeyi, be sensible," screamed Mantara. "You have no idea what lies in the store for you. If Rama becomes king, don't you think it is odd that Dashratha arranged his coronation while Bharata is visiting his grandfather? What are you thinking? When Rama is king, Kaushalya will be the most powerful woman in this palace. It will make no difference that you are the Dashratha's favorite. Rama will be the king. You and your son will be shoved aside. You will have no power. You will have to beg for favors. Is that the life you want to live?" Kaikeyi was stunned. She pushed away the maid who was weaving flowers into the hair and ordered her to leave the room. She turned to look at Mantara, her eyes wide with horror. "What did you say?" she whispered. "Do you think Rama will treat me differently once he is the king? Will the old king have no more powers? Will my son have to serve his brother? Will I be nobody?" "Yes, that is exactly what will happen, Kaikeyi," said Mantara more calmly. "Your father will not marry you to an old man so that you could be treated like an old and unimportant woman. He wanted you to be powerful, the favorite wife of a doting husband who would do anything that you asked. Oh, what will happen to me now?" wailed Kaikeyi, tears streaming down her lovely face. "I don't want to be ignored. I don't want my son to be a servant. What shall I do, Mantara? Help me." Mantara settled and stood by the queen, stroking her and wiping her tears with her hand. "Listen to me, my dear," she said. "All is not lost. We still have a few tricks upon our sleeve. We have to make sure that Rama is not crowned tomorrow. But how could we do that? All preparations have been started. The priests have begun rituals. Rama must be taking his purifying bath as we speak. You must act at once," Kaikeyi said Mantara, her little eyes above her pinched nose shining as she spoke. "You have the ultimate power over Dashrata. He has promised you two boons that you can ask for whenever you like. Ask for them now. Use one boon to banish Rama into the forest for 14 years. Use the use the other to make your son Bharata king. Come now. Wipe off your makeup. Tear your clothes, loosen your hair, go to the anger room and lie on the floor. Call Dashratha to you and tell him that you will never speak to him again unless he surrenders to your wishes." Kaikeyi did as Mantara had said and threw herself on the floor on the anger room. Her fine clothes and beautiful hair is in a mess. She tore off her necklace, and its pearls scattered across the dark floor like stars in the midnight sky. Her eyes were red with anger tears, and she commanded her maid, "Tell the king I want to see him now." King Dashrath loved Kaikeyi deeply. She was his favorite queen. He could not bear her unhappiness or even her discomfort. As soon as he heard that she was in the anger room, his heart thudded against his ribs and he ran, puffing and gasping, to where she was. He saw her sprawled on the cold floor, wearing and tearing her hair, beating her breast as if the person she loved most in the entire world had died. "Kaikeyi, Kaikeyi, what's the matter? Why are you in this state? How can I make you happy again?" cried the king as he tried to take her in his arms. She pushed the old king away and shouted, "Make my son Bharata king and send Rama into the forest for 14 years. That will make me happy for all time." Dasharatha could not believe his ears. Tears rolled down his face as he begged Kaikeyi to change her mind. The mighty monarch, that great king, knelt at her feet, his, his head bowed, the proud crown of his forefathers touching the floor. "I did not hear you correctly, my beloved. Surely you did not ask me to send my precious Rama into the forest for 14 years. He is to be crowned the king tomorrow. The preparations have begun. Bharata is his younger brother. He can't be king. Tell me, what is it that you really want?" "I will die without Rama," cried the king. "You heard me," Dashwata said Kaikeyi, moving her feet away from his gasp. "Rama to the forest, and Bharata on the throne. You gave me two boons when I saved your life in battle when I was a young girl. I did not want those boons then. When then I had everything I wanted, but I will redeem those boons now. Will you tell Rama or shall I?"